Welcome and thank you for joining today's webinar. I am Courtney Patterson, Content Strategist at DICE, and I'll be leading us through the content in today's webinar, How to Attract and Retain Technologists in an Ultra-Competitive Market. For those of you who have attended DICE webinars before, welcome back. For those who are new to DICE, welcome. There are just a few administrative items that we'd like to cover before we dive into the content. Today's webinar will last approximately 45 minutes. In the last 10 to 15 minutes, we'll answer the questions that you submitted when you registered. And if there's time, we'll go to the chat. So please add your questions to the chat as you have them throughout the webinar. The questions that we're not able to get to, we'll answer via email or in a follow-up blog post on the DICE website. Today's webinar will be recorded, and the recording will be shared with you via email in the next 24 to 48 hours. The email will also include links to all of the reports that we discuss in this webinar so that you can dive deeper into the data and insights that we share today. And at the end of this webinar, you'll see a post-webinar survey on your screen. We ask that you please take a moment to let us know your thoughts on the content of the webinar. We really do read through all of the comments, and we use your feedback to improve the content that we put together for you. So thanks in advance for taking time to share your thoughts. And finally, as many of you might be, I am working remotely from my home office today, and I appreciate your patience and understanding if any unexpected technical issues arise. All right, let's start with the agenda. We'll start off by sharing where the data presented in this webinar came from and the methodology behind those reports. Then we'll take a look at what's making the market so competitive before getting into the 5 areas that we're recommending that you focus on to attract and retain technologist talent in an environment that many are calling the hottest tech job market since the .com era. We'll round out the webinar with a quick recap and provide you with some brief information about how DICE can help, and finally, answer questions from you before we send you on your way, ready to take action on what we've shared with you today. Throughout the webinar, we'll be presenting data and insights from a variety of DICE reports and surveys that include the 2021 Technologist Sentiment Report, which was aggregated from multiple surveys conducted in 2020 and 2021, the Equality in Tech Report, which is an analysis of survey responses from more than 9,000 employed technologists across the US, and the latest DICE Tech Job Report from Q2, where we analyzed more than 1 million tech job postings between April and June of this year, and compared that analysis to Q1 and historical trends. You'll receive ungated links to all 3 of these reports in the follow-up email that I discussed earlier, which you'll receive in a couple of days so that you can dive deeper into the data and insights that we share with you today. Now, before we jump into the 5 tips, let's take a look at the current job market and some reasons it's grown increasingly competitive in the last 18 months. First, the tech unemployment rate was 1.5% this summer, which is the lowest it's been since August 2019, when the tech unemployment rate was at a 20-year record low of 1.3%. This, coupled with the Great Resignation, which we'll cover in just a moment, has made recruiting and retaining technologists one of the biggest challenges for employers and recruiters this year. In the month of April alone, nearly 4 million people in the US voluntarily quit their jobs, many for better work conditions or just to take time away from work altogether. When you combine this with the mass exodus and the growing demand, a demand that was compounded by forced digitization caused by the pandemic, and you have a bit of a perfect storm. We saw a 16% increase in tech job postings in Q2 of this year alone, And this was across all sectors and industries, so not just limited to tech companies, but if you think about it, in so many ways, every organization today is a tech organization. So technologists have more leverage than ever, and the demand for tech talent is showing no signs of slowing, which is why you're here today. We've put together our 5 top tips to help you compete and win in this environment. And of course, there are many other approaches and concepts that we won't have time to cover today, but you can always reach out to us after the fact if you want to learn more. All right, now let's take a look at the 5 tips for attracting and retaining top tech talent in today's ultra competitive market, and then dive into each one. First, we're recommending really understanding technologists and not relying on stereotypes. We'll present data from the Technologist Sentiment Report that gives you an insight into what technologists really want and how to use this information for recruiting success. Then we'll talk about how flexibility is key to an employee's market and ways that you can offer flexibility that will pique candidates' interests. We'll go over being specific in your job descriptions in 2 particular areas, and then how being more specific can help you build a short list of candidates more efficiently. And then we'll discuss the importance of transparency and giving candidates a clear picture of what it's like to work within your organization. We'll also present data on how important learning is to technologists and ways that you can create and build a culture of learning in your organization to attract tech talent looking for a place to grow. The first tip we want to share with you is how important it is to really understand technologists' needs and wants. We say really here because while most every organization says that they are customer-centric, the reality is that most don't want to do the work that it takes to get to the core needs and wants of specific customer groups. Many organizations apply stereotypes about software developers and engineers, and they stop there. But what we're suggesting in this tip is looking past these surface level stereotypes and really understanding technologists' needs and wants. So how do we actually learn about their needs and wants? It starts with good research and asking the right questions, not just validating our hypotheses, but also attempting to learn where we might be off base. Earlier this year, we released our first ever Technologist Sentiment Report, which took the pulse of technology professionals on key issues, including job and career satisfaction, remote and flexible work, workload and work-life balance, interests in changing employers, and technologists' outlook on the tech profession in a post-pandemic world. The report is a great example of findings that we didn't completely expect, including the 17% of technologists who actually prefer to work in an office full-time. We want to share a few of the insights with you today that we think can help you gain a better understanding of and have empathy for technologists. But we also hope that you'll check out the full report when you receive the webinar recording and links. Once you understand technology's needs and wants, empathizing with them will be the key to success. Letting technologists know that you care about what's right for them can make all of the difference. One of the insights from the report that we want to share with you today is top career concerns. Understanding technologists' top career concerns can give you insight into what makes them leave an organization and what makes them stay. In the sentiment surveys that DICE conducted in Q2 and Q4 of 2020 and Q2 of 2021, we found that top career concerns included not getting promoted, having remote work privileges revoked, which we'll chat about in the next tip, and increased workload. With many organizations putting promotions on hold in 2020, not getting promoted is not a surprising concern and actually could give recruiters an in if that concern doesn't lessen in 2021. And with so many companies pulling back on return to office plans, having remote work privileges revoked also makes a lot of sense as a top career concern, as does increased workload. In the sentiment report, data shows that only 16% of technologists surveyed indicated that they did not experience any increase in workload in 2020. By the way, one more benefit of the Technologist sentiment report is that we provide breakdowns by age to help you be more granular in your approach to recruiting technologists. Workload increases is one of the topics where we saw significant differences in the responses from technologists who are aged 18 to 44 compared to technologists 45 and older. It's no surprise that increased workloads have led to increased burnout, which we found has actually continued into 2021. In this chart, you can see year-over-year increases in technologists responding that they feel some level of burnout in 2020 in red and 2021 in gray, and year-over-year decreases in the number of technologists not feeling burnt out at all. Equipped with this sentiment data, and of course all of the data in the sentiment report, you can approach conversations with technologists in a more empathetic way, letting them know that you know the last 18 months have been very difficult, and that just because they're in high demand doesn't mean that it's easy to find the right job at the right organization. But as their advocate, you will be better positioned to share information about job postings that may be most interesting and enticing to them. For recruiters, you can also give them valuable intelligence about the organizations that you're working with, helping to articulate and emphasize mission, vision, values, and culture in a way that few employer websites and job descriptions do. The second tip for attracting and retaining top tech talent in today's ultra-competitive markets is be flexible. Over the last year, we've had to adjust a lot. Our routines and our needs look vastly different than they did in 2019. And that goes for technologists' routines and needs too. And while there may be many ways that you can be flexible when recruiting a job candidate, we're suggesting focusing on two main areas where technologists have indicated the greatest concern: physical workplace and work schedule. There are, of course, varying levels of flexibility that are possible for organizations, but those are dependent on a huge range of factors. What we're focusing on here today in this tip is just being as flexible as you can be. From our sentiment surveys, we learned that more than 80% of technologists indicate satisfaction with their current remote work status. Digging deeper, we asked technologists about their preferences and expectations around how many days they will work remotely when COVID-19 is no longer a concern. That resulted in an interesting finding, which was a big discrepancy between technologists' desired number of remote days and the number of days they actually expect to be allowed to work remotely. Keep in mind that this insight ties back to one of technologists' top career concerns, which is having remote work privileges revoked. In this matrix we're looking at, the green blocks indicate the percentage of employees whose desires match expectations. Those employees whose desires do not match expectations are in red. For example, for those technologists who desire to work remotely 1 day per week, that's this 32%, the other 68% of respondents will likely be unhappy with that choice. Those who desire to work remotely 2 days per week, this 47%, the other 53% will be unhappy. I'm going to pause here for a sip of water and give you just an extra moment to study this matrix. So the point here is that there's no one-size-fits-all approach, and that technologists will want flexibility. And that flexibility goes beyond the physical workspace. Working remotely has allowed technologists to shift their schedules to meet personal and family needs outside of work. Moving back to a traditional office typically would require traditional 9 to 5 hours. And for some technologists, that doesn't mesh very well with their new schedules. Whether it's because they have become caretakers of kids or ailing loved ones since the pandemic began, or maybe now they prefer spending more time that they would be commuting as quality time with family members, as these quotes from survey respondents would suggest. These technologists will be looking for opportunities that allow them to continue flexible schedules that enable them to manage both their professional and personal lives effectively. On the flip side, there will also be technologists who welcome the separation from home life and prefer to be in the office more frequently. Again, the key here is being flexible and accommodating to candidates' varying needs on top of understanding and empathizing with those needs. And physical, workspace, and work schedule are just two ways that you can show flexibility and understanding with job candidates throughout the recruitment process. For employers, there's also a retention opportunity here. Focusing on flexibility instead of looking at remote versus in-office as the only two options can also help reframe the conversation. In the end, it's often less about where technologists and other employees are working and more about how they prefer to work. You're going to see different perspectives across the board on in-office versus virtual because everyone has a different situation. So focusing on root causes can help you find common ground. You can ask questions like, why do some technologists want to be in the office? Why do others want to work 100% remotely? Our data shows that those who want to be in the office want face time with decision makers to further their careers, something that they struggle with virtually. And others who want to be fully remote want to spend more time with family and create a more optimal work schedule. Our third tip for attracting and retaining top tech talent is be specific in your job descriptions. In this section, we'll be presenting data from Dice's latest tech job report. Dice releases 3 tech job reports throughout the year that showcase the latest tech job posting data across the US by city, state, occupation, employer, and skill. We encourage you to check out the Dice Tech Job Reports as they provide valuable data and insight to help you make sense of constant shifts in the tech job market and learn about real-time trends. The next tech job report and the last one for 2021 will be released in November, I apologize. But back to being specific about your job descriptions. By identifying and including top skills for the tech position that you're hiring for, you'll want to collect a more qualified list. You will collect a more qualified list of potential candidates. Adjusting your job descriptions to better integrate and articulate your mission, vision, values, and culture will also help differentiate your job description and give candidates a better idea of what it's like to work within your organization. Because that's something that we've learned that technologists are actually just as interested in as the job itself. In the DICE Q2 Tech Job Report, project management, SQL, Java, Python, and JavaScript continue to show dominance in terms of the number of job postings these skills appeared in. While you as a recruiter may not totally understand each of these skills, it's important to understand which skills are actually important to the job that you're hiring for and filter out the others. Listing too many skills with unrealistic levels of experience can be an immediate turnoff, especially to seasoned technologists who know what they are looking for and the experience required to land the role that they want. Rather than listing all of the skills that you can possibly think of to widen your candidate pool, consider being deliberate and specific about the skills that you include in your job postings to attract quality candidates that fit your exact need. By the way, if you ever need help building or refining job descriptions for a certain tech role, be sure to check out the Dice Employer Resource Center, where we have a library of job description templates that you can use as a foundation, all of which include suggested skills and experience based on Dice research. We'll also include this link in the follow-up email. Another part of your job descriptions where you can be more specific and differentiate your organization is in your company description. Not only can your company description communicate your mission, vision, values, and culture, but it can give candidates a better idea of what it's like to work at your organization. Here are a few pointers for differentiating your job description with your company description. Write like you speak. Use simple language instead of jargon, and think about it from the candidate's perspective. What do they need to know, and in what order do they want to know it? Upgrade your About Us copy. Instead of the company boilerplate, you can use your About Us copy to talk about what it's like to work at your organization and how your organization's mission impacts the broader world. Include details on benefits outside of health insurance and 401k. What benefits set you apart? Do you close early on Fridays? Do you offer commuter benefits? Be sure to list those here. Make your values front and center. You still need to talk about what the candidate will actually be doing, but you should also focus on how the candidate will live out the values of the organization in their role. And finally, showcase your brand voice. Too many job descriptions are overly industrial, so if you have a brand voice that you use for other mediums, we encourage you to use it in your job descriptions too, because this is often a candidate's first impression of your brand and a place where you can make it count. And that's a good segue to our next tip, which is being transparent about your organization's culture. Evaluating the culture of the organization a candidate is considering joining has always been an important part of the consideration process. And with the employee-led revolution around better workplaces and environments that has come with the pandemic, it's more important than ever. After all, brand and reputation can be a deal breaker for technologists just as much as base salary or benefits can be. As you already know, there are many ways a candidate can research the culture of an organization. They can visit websites like Glassdoor, they can reach out to current or former employees, they can browse social media. But what we're encouraging you to do with this tip is ask yourself, in the places where you can control, are you doing your absolute best in representing what it's like to work within the organization, why you exist, and why the work that you do matters? Rather than assuming candidates will research company culture on their own, be transparent in the recruiting process by sharing your experience with the company, introducing the candidate to current employees inside and outside of their department. Share your company's values and mission with the candidate early on to make sure that the candidate's values align. You can also do this through employer branding on your company page on Dice or on social media pages by posting photos and testimonials from employees and awards that your company has earned for being a great place to work. One aspect of company culture that is of particular interest to many technologists is the company's commitment to efforts in diversity, equity, and inclusion. In Dice's Equality in Tech report, We explored gender and race discrimination, compensation, career paths, and paths to a better, more equitable future. In the survey that supported the Equality in Tech report, we asked technologists, does an employer's reputation regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion factor into your decision to work for that company? Collectively, nearly 3/4 of respondents indicated it was in fact influential in their decision to work for a company, and the breakdown by race shows a range of perceived importance. The graph visualizes the range of responses to this question by racial group. 65% of Black respondents, 53% of Asian Indian respondents, 51% of Asian Pacific Islander respondents, 50% of Hispanic Latinx respondents, and 41% of white respondents thought that the reputation for diversity, equity, and inclusion was an important factor in whether they would work for a particular company. Given how important diversity, equity, and inclusion is to employees across racial groups, being transparent and open about your company's culture as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as efforts your company is taking to create and sustain a more inclusive culture, can heavily influence a candidate's decision to join your organization. Finally, our fifth tip for attracting and retaining top tech talent is to be a best place to learn, not just work. Remember the top career concerns that we shared earlier from the sentiment report? Keeping skills up to date was in the top 10 at number 6. With many training and development budgets being cut in 2020, technologists are looking for ways to continue to develop their skills within and outside of their organizations. In addition to meeting this need of technologists, it's no secret that creating a culture of learning benefits business by combating complacency with critical thinking and encouraging thoughtful engagement from technologists when it comes to projects and initiatives. You're seeing some stats here from Deloitte, who found that organizations with learning programs in place experience 37% higher productivity and are 92% more likely to innovate. We know it's not easy to build learning programs from scratch in-house, especially on highly technical topics. So consider partnering with and utilizing learning platforms that technologists already tend to gravitate towards. By partnering with a formal platform like Udemy or General Assembly, you can offer technologists a wider range of learning opportunities, sometimes along with certification programs. There are also informal community-based platforms like GitHub and Stack Overflow that are devoted to certain technologies, where technologists can ask questions of those who have more experience and learn from them. Showing technologists that you're not just a place to work, but also a place to learn and grow can sweeten the deal with those technologists who are hungry to learn and keep their skills sharp. That was a lot of information. I will pause for a moment and take another sip of water, and then we'll go over each of the 5 tips before we jump into Q&A. So first we talked about understanding and empathizing with technologist needs and how that will help strengthen connection and build trust with candidates. In addition to the insights about remote work preferences and career satisfaction that we shared with you today, The data in the DICE Technologist Sentiment Report will help you do this. So we really encourage you to check out the full report when you receive the links in the follow-up email. Adding on to understanding and empathizing with technologist needs and being flexible to those needs and wants when connecting with candidates, all the way up to extending offers. 18 plus months of remote work has really sweetened many technologists up to its benefits, and many still want to work remotely to some degree. So being flexible about work environment and schedule can help you win a candidate who may be on the fence. We talked about being more specific about skills in your job descriptions to help you develop a short list of qualified candidates more efficiently. And we discussed making sure that you're using job descriptions as an opportunity to make a great first impression and give candidates important insight on what it's like to actually work for your organization and why the candidate's work will matter in the grand scheme of things. Being transparent about your company's culture can serve as another differentiator that wins over candidates whose values align with yours. By being upfront and transparent about your culture, candidates can feel less unsure about what it would be like to work for your company and more open to an offer. And finally, being a best place to learn, not just to work. Considering technologists indicated keeping skills up to date as a top career concern in our sentiment surveys, showcasing your organization as a place to learn, in addition to being a place they work, has the potential to interest technologists more than any other benefits. So before we get to questions, if you're not familiar with DICE, I just want to quickly introduce you to who we are and how we can help you attract and retain top tech talent. DICE is a career marketplace focused exclusively on tech hiring, with jobs, profiles, and engagement tools that enable employers and technologists to build meaningful, mutually beneficial connections. A few things that make us unique are that we are 100% tech focused. Technologists and the technology that they power are the future of business in so many ways. We connect business and technologists using tools and insights that are unrivaled in the tech industry, making us a trusted source and a key destination for tech hiring. Our one-of-a-kind platform and AI matching technology offers a truly differentiated approach, enabling recruiters to find the exact candidates who fit their needs. We also deliver the most relevant job opportunities and career insights to technologists. I mentioned briefly how employer branding through your company page on DICE can help you be transparent about your company culture, and that's something we do particularly well. The DICE marketplace enables employers and recruiters to brand themselves through highly effective company pages, recruiter profiles, and targeted marketing. With DICE, technologists can learn all about prospective employers before they apply, while also showcasing their own skills, strengths, and preferences on their profile. If you're interested in learning more about DICE, how DICE can help you and help you attract and retain top tech talent in today's competitive market, our phone number is here. You can always reach out to us via email, and you can always visit our website, dice.com, to learn more. And now it is time to answer some of the questions you submitted prior to the webinar. Our first question here is a great one. What does data show is the most effective way to reach tech talent? Our data shows that technologists prefer email as their top communication channel, and actually something interesting that we discovered is that technologists with 4 to 20 years of experience actually prefer newsletters significantly more than technologists with less than 4 years of experience. Related to that first question, we have another question about communication challenges. Talent is inundated with outreach from recruiters and companies and have become numb. How do we stand out and differentiate? Great question. With email being technologists' preferred communication channel, being strategic with your subject lines is really crucial. That can grab attention and get your emails opened. But outside of email, you might try something with a personal touch, like a personal letter in the mail. Snail mail isn't as common anymore, and it could be a good way to grab attention. Whatever channel you do choose, whenever you can personalize it, that's going to pay greater dividends, even though it's more of a manual process. Something I do want to point out quickly here is that Dice offers recruiter profiles, and when posting jobs to Dice, attaching your recruiter profile allows you to personalize the candidate's experience by sharing your story, and it also increases the probability that the candidate will respond to your outreach. Our data shows that recruiters are 2 times as likely to get a response from candidates when their profile is more than 50% complete. Here is another great question. What is the top information that candidates look for when first contacted by a recruiter? We find that candidates are looking for their basic needs to be met first. They're looking to answer questions like, would I earn more than I'm earning now? Is the location workable for my lifestyle? Is it a role that represents growth for me? What would I learn? And does it align with where I want to grow as a professional? They're also evaluating any listed benefits for meeting their needs and lifestyle as well. And they're looking at all of this before they look at company culture and the actual job responsibilities. We also had a couple questions about compensation. This first one is, how should we handle young technologists with 6 to 9 months of experience asking for exceptionally high salaries that government labor cannot accommodate? With it being an employee's market, you're likely going to see this continue. These asks that are bigger relative to experience, and if you can't afford to pay the higher salaries, one way to approach that negotiation would be to focus on your organization's mission and values. We found that many younger technologists are searching for a place where they can discover their purpose and make an impact. And if you can provide a place where they can do that, they may be more open to a lower salary to support your values. You could also focus on flexible work environments or schedules like we talked about earlier, since flexibility and remote work appeals to many technologists. But for those that are looking for a big starting salary and who aren't interested in other benefits, they aren't mission driven, there's really not much you can do. It's worth having those conversations though, because you might be surprised how many candidates will actually listen to your value and work structure-based pitches. Another related question that we received is, what else besides compensation and flexible work schedules are other organizations using to engage and retain employees? Organizations are definitely having to get creative when it comes to winning candidates over in this market. Something that became apparent after 18 months of fully remote work is employees are feeling more isolated because they're not seeing their colleagues every day. To help this, some employers have been boosting recognition programs to make sure that employees feel seen and appreciated through awards or company-wide shout-outs. So something like this could appeal to technologists looking for a company that expresses its appreciation for employees in a very direct and public way. This next tip would be related to compensation, but something that we've seen arise from the shift to remote work over the last 18 months is work from home budgets. For everything from office furniture to coffee, companies are recognizing that hybrid work is probably here to stay for a while, and they want to make sure that their employees are as comfortable as possible. And then instead of indefinite flexible work schedules, some larger tech organizations, including Apple and Google, have been offering work from anywhere opportunities where employees have the chance to work from anywhere for 2 weeks, sometimes longer, but this gives employees flexibility, but in a more defined way for the organization. And then speaking of working from anywhere, this will be our last question for today. If clients who don't let tech candidates, they're asking if clients who don't let tech candidates work remotely stand a chance post-COVID. This is a very tough place to be with so many technologists preferring to work remotely, at least some of the time. However, as I mentioned earlier in the webinar, 17% of technologists responded to our sentiment surveys saying that they still wanted to work in an office environment full time. So we're not seeing that all technologists want to work remotely all of the time, which is good for those organizations that are requiring technologists to work in an office. That said, though, like we talked about in the webinar, flexibility is really crucial to recruiting and retaining top tech talent because nearly 60% of those survey respondents indicated that they were only interested in working fully remote. So while these organizations do stand a chance, it's going to be more difficult for organizations that can't or won't offer full-time work options. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to join us for this webinar. We hope that you found the webinar helpful and the tips we've shared actionable. We'll be sending a recording of this webinar along with links to all of the reports discussed today in the next 24 to 48 hours. Please feel free to forward that email to any colleagues who you think may benefit from the information that we shared today. And also a friendly reminder to please take the follow-up survey that you'll see pop up on your screen immediately after this webinar ends. We do read every response and we appreciate your feedback. Thank you again, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.